Yo, 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 it is your boy Chris. Got a lot to talk about today. This is your episode. This is officially what I call Media Detox Monday. So before I really jump into it, if you like what you're about to hear, I want you to really like, comment, and subscribe. So let's get into this. ICE raids, riots, Marines in the streets, and somehow the narrative is still being shaped like this is about safety. But if you zoom out, it's not about public safety. It's about political panic and quotas that aren't being met. Let's detox from the headlines and take a look at what's really happening. So, let's start with this headline. Mass ICE raids in Los Angeles, a sanctuary city. That matters because LA doesn't cooperate with federal immigration enforcement by default. So I want to roll into one of these clips and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about from here. Hold up, before I like go any further, I swear to you, I've seen something very similar. I don't know if everybody's watching the Fast and the Furious franchise. We're all family, right? This reminds me, I think it was Fast Five, where Vin Diesel and it might have been Paul Walker, they strapped the bank vaults to the back of Chargers and they was getting chased through the street. That's kind of what this shit looks like, but let's keep carrying on.
Chaos erupts here in LA County. Widespread immigration raids triggering protests from Paramount to downtown. And tonight, an unlawful assembly has been declared as President Trump announces he will be deploying thousands of National Guard troops here to Los Angeles. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the News at 10. I'm Rick Chambers. Major developments during a second day of violent confrontations between protesters and federal agents who are out on the streets trying to round up undocumented.
Now look at that footage. That doesn't look like public safety. That looks like a war zone or a third world country. That's not how a functioning government treats its people. Listen, the administration says they're cracking down, that they were elected to restore order. But here's what the numbers say. Here's what the numbers say. ICE, under the Trump administration, is deporting about 400 people per day. That's on pace for just under 150,000 this year. Not 3,000 a day like they promised. Meanwhile, last year in 2024, ICE deported 271,000 people, the highest total in over a decade. So, realistically, if you're Trump, that's kind of embarrassing, right? You're not doing more, you're doing less. And you need more chaos to actually cover for it. And when you need cover, you go to one place. You go back to the Project 2025 playbook. Yes, the much hated, the much disputed topic of the 2024 election. If you haven't heard of Project 2025, don't worry, you will. It's the blueprint for how the far right plans to reshape the government from top to bottom, created by the Heritage Foundation. And one piece of that blueprint, which we'll talk about right now, it's restoring expanded executive authority, including the use of military against civilians during unrest. Sound familiar? And this weekend, that's exactly what we saw. Trump invoked Title X, federalized 2,000 National Guard troops, and sent 700 active duty Marines to LA. Listen, that's not normal. I don't know how old you are watching this video. You might be in your 40s, you might be in your 50s, but it's not often you see the National Guard used against American citizens. That's a military state. That is a police state. It actually hasn't happened in 60 years without state consent. And it's not happening because of violent crime, because guess what? Don't worry. I got a truth bomb for you. I got another truth bomb for you. Crime is not surging. Not in LA, not nationally. So that brings me to my next point, which is right over here. If you look at this chart right here, right in front of you, I'm gonna make it larger. If you look at all the way to the left, right, this is violent crime rate per 100,000 people, okay? In 1990, it was extremely high, right? And if you keep going down to the right, it continues to go down before seeing a slight peak in 2024. Or 2020, sorry, not 2024. So since the early 90s, violent crime is down nearly 50% nationwide. There was a spike during COVID, but in 2023, it dropped again. We're back to pre-pandemic lows. So no, this is not about public safety. It's about fear and controlling the narrative around immigration. That is the reality. It's the reality. You know, and I talked about it in one of my earlier videos, but a lot of this has everything to do with the echo chambers that social media creates. It makes every single person feels like they're unsafe. They're in an environment where they can be kidnapped, they can be shot, stabbed, killed at any moment. But the facts say things are actually better. So why do they feel worse? You got to ask yourself that, because I can't make you think about it. All I can do is point you in the right direction and make you look it up yourself, right? I'm not saying that we don't have a long way to go with some of our crime. I'm not saying that at all. That is not the case. That is the truth. But the way things are being handled, the way that people are being flamed and riled up against each other, Americans against each other, that's not the country that we want to grow up in, that we want our kids to grow up in. That's not what we want for society. Love thy neighbor, right? Or is that not a thing anymore, right? So I'm going to roll this clip. And the reason I want to roll this clip is because, you know, and we'll get to it in a second, but when we talked about immigration, people were promised that violent criminals will be the ones being deported, right? Yet I see multiple stories every week, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm going to roll this clip right here, and just to give you an idea exactly what I'm talking about. So let's roll that.
Deportation effort in the country's history. And as the Homeland Security Department works to deport more people, immigrants with legal status or no criminal history are also being detained and deported. We talked with...
So is that what we want? We want people that came here to the land of freedom and opportunity, right? To live a better life, people seeking asylum, law-abiding individuals. Law-abiding individuals. I will repeat that again. We want to live in a place where we want to kick these people out. People contributing to society. Why? Why? And these three individuals that you're about to see, you know what? Let's just roll a clip. Let's just roll a clip.
3 people affected by the changes: a Canadian who tried to renew her visa, the husband of a Peruvian immigrant who's being detained in Louisiana, and a graduate student currently being targeted for deportation. Here's what they told us.
My name is Jasmine Mooney, and I am from Canada.
She looks like a real criminal. Like, you should really guard your wallet when you're around her, or she might, you know, kidnap your child. I don't know.
My name is Mamadou Tao. I'm from the UK and the Gambia, and I am a PhD candidate in the Department of Africana Studies at Cornell.
Whoa, he's going to use his PhD. He's going to use his PhD that he's working toward to knife you to death. That's what he's going to do. He's going to argue you until you submit and you suffocate. I'm being extra because this shit's just ridiculous, but hopefully you get the point that I'm making here.
Bradley Bartell. I live in central Wisconsin. Sylvia Munoz, she was detained February 15th, roughly 1 p.m. or so. We were coming back from our honeymoon in Puerto Rico.
Honeymoon.
The
Puerto Rico's a
agents
beautiful
at
place, by the
the airport in San Juan were asking everybody if they were American citizens or not. That's when they pulled her to the side, starting asking questions like, hey, this is my wife of American citizen, and, you know, do you have this form on you? Do you have this form on you? And no, we didn't.
I was detained on March 3rd.
All right, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. Right? Have you seen enough? These aren't violent criminals. These are community leaders, people beloved by the community, parents, teachers, business owners, people who follow the law and now find themselves in federal custody or fighting it because they needed a number to be hit. So we were promised all these bad hombres, right? Bad hombres. We got real bad hombres around here, right? People beloved in their neighborhoods. That's not justice. That is a performance. And let me be clear, protest is not the problem. I've seen people burn cars, loot stores, torch Waymos, and that's not protest. That shit is criminal. And those people, they should be held accountable. But that's not the most people. Let's take a trip down the memory lane, right? Think back to the 60s. I have a dream. Everyone's heard of Martin Luther King, unless, you know, that's not being taught in schools anymore. I'm sure in some areas it might be controversial. But think back to the civil rights movement. Without protests, I wouldn't be making this video. I wouldn't be living where I live. My kids wouldn't be going to the school that they go to. Protest is foundational to progress. And like any protest, yes, you will have bad actors. That is just a fact of life, right? Think about this. Charlottesville, that wasn't a liberal protest. A woman died. George Floyd protest. Most of the people killed during those demonstrations were left-leaning civilians, not radical. And I'm sorry, but Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old who crossed state lines with an AR-15 to protect property and walked free. That's not what accountability looks like either, right? And I think and I hope we should all be able to agree on something that simple. So this is where it all comes together. We don't need more force. We need better systems. We've never had a real national plan to integrate immigration into infrastructure. I'm talking housing, schools, healthcare, disaster response. We've never done it, and we're paying the price now. This week, and I can't wait to show you, this is probably one of the most exciting things I'm doing, but I'm going to preview a plan that I've been working on for months, and it's a full-scale insurance infrastructure reform package that builds resilience instead of chaos, one that protects people instead of punishing people. Because most people don't want cruelty. They want to feel safe, and they want to know the people in charge see them, not just the headlines. That's deep, right? Look, if you voted for Trump thinking he'd clean things up, I hear you. But this shit right here, this isn't cleanup. It's cleanup theater. We're watching lives get torn apart, and the numbers don't lie. Less deportation, more military, and zero long-term plan. So my message, and I want to make this really, really clear. 1, arrest the looters. 2, stop the overreach. 3, build something better. All right, so this week we're going there. Tune in tomorrow. I got Tariff Tuesday for you. We'll follow the money behind the fear. And if you like what you heard today, I want you to really just subscribe, share, and comment. If you've seen anything like this play out in your city, I want to hear your story. Let's get back to the truth, not just the talking points. I appreciate you all rocking with me, and I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow. If you made it this far, you're not just scrolling, you're searching. Hit that subscribe button and share this with one person who actually thinks. And if you're ready to keep pushing past that noise, tap the box on the screen. I'll see you there.